Now we've started. Hi, everybody. Welcome to our Power Platform Community AMA Power Apps Edition. My name is Clay Wesener. I lead product for the Power Apps Studio, our low-code authoring experiences.
And hi, everyone. I am Bryony Wolf. I run the marketing team for Power Platform.
And today we have a group of experts from our product team on the call. We're going to jump in and start fielding a few questions. Thank you to everyone that has already submitted questions. The AMA tool isn't going to let you submit any new questions now, but you can still upvote. So if there are questions that you are interested in getting an answer to, make sure to jump in there using the link on the screen at the moment. You can still upvote questions and we'll jump in and get an answer for you. Okay, so should we dive in?
Yes, and we're very excited to be here with you today.
Would you like to address the elephant in the room first, Bri, of our height difference?
Oh, yes. I'm not actually this short. It's the camera.
It's all perspective.
Yeah,
that's the only
very
difference
much
we look like this.
Okay. Yes, we're more the same.
Okay, our first question. We are going to jump in and hand it to Dami. Dami, can you explain a little more about using custom domains for model-driven apps?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Clay. That's a great question. So at this moment, that capability is not yet available in the modern app designer, but it is possible to create a shorter, more friendly URL in the classic designer. So the way that you go about it is you click on the app name, you find the manage roles property, and then there's an app suffix text box that you can put in like a short, a word or two describing your app. And then that'll replace the alphanumeric string that you see in the URL and gives you a shorter, nicer URL. So the short answer, you can switch over to Classic Designer and you can do that. We are actively transitioning from Classic to Modern App Designer, as many of you know, and the goal is that once we are at parity with Classic, that feature will then be available in the Modern App Designer.
Such a detailed answer, Dami.
Yeah.
Thank you. And also, would you like to tell people where you're based and what you work on? And maybe we'll get all our answers.
Yes. Yeah, I was so excited to answer that question. I forgot to introduce myself. Thanks, Clay. Hi, everyone. My name is Dami. I am a product manager on the Power Apps Studio team, and I am based in Atlanta, Georgia.
Thanks for joining us, Dami.
Wonderful. And we love your T-shirt.
Yes, Power Platform.
Way to represent. Okay. Are we ready for question 2? Anything you'd add to that, Clay?
No, I mean, I think, to Dami's point, there's a lot of these capabilities. We're trying to bring the right ones into the modern designers so they're really easy to find. And so, we started off on one that's still in some of those classic experiences, but this is also where community feedback is really, really helpful to us of what are you using and what are those things that we should accelerate getting into these modern experiences?
Yeah, you should put him to work.
Yes.
So get the requests in and upvote them.
Feedback, feedback, feedback.
Yes. Okay. Shall we head to question 2? So the question is, how can I design branching questions in a model-driven app for surveys, where the next question shown depends on a user's previous answers? So the example given is if a user selects yes to a question, they're shown a different follow-up. I'd also like to include functionality for users to upload and store images. So any best practices for managing media storage and UX would be greatly appreciated. Oh, I love that because I love bringing it to life.
You'd like media and images. It's the marketer in you.
Yeah. So Dami, you're up again.
Yes. I'm happy to take that again. Those are great questions. So the first question about simulating branching. So if you go to your form or even through Table Hub, you're able to add a business role such that, for example, a certain field could only show up based on a condition. I think that was one of the examples that was given in the question. So yeah, you just add a business role, make sure to save it and activate it, apply it to the form, republish your app, and you should be all set. There is a learned article that's online that provides, there we go, it's showing up on the screen. Awesome, thank you so much. Yeah, so this actually will go into more detail on how you can make that happen. So yeah, the second part of the question was about uploading images to a form, I believe. So the way that you do that is by adding an image column to your table. So if you go to add a new column, you change the data type to a file and then image, and then you add that column in your form. And then once you republish your app, you should see that that column or field as part of your form. So, users are able to upload images to the form. The only call out there is that there is a maximum size of 30 megabytes per upload. But yes, you can just add an image column to your table and it should show up on your form.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dami. And with Learn content as well. Thank
Yeah.
you. You've come prepared with links. No, I would say that's great. I would also say, like, as folks, if you're not familiar with business rules, getting in and looking at things like business rules, functions, low-code plugins, some of the things you can do with Power Effects, as well as then using Copilot and like natural language to generate Power Effects and rules is also super handy and worth a look if you're trying to explore different ways to apply logic. Thank you, Dami. We are not going to send the third question to you, Dami, so
Yeah.
we will give you a little bit of a break. The next question we are going to send to Emma Cooper. Emma, is there a way to incorporate Teams within apps? Power Apps in Teams works, but one of the requests from customers is to include the Teams chat within Power Apps themselves. Any thoughts?
Thanks, Clay. So to start with introduction, Emma Cooper. I'm based in Redmond in Washington. So that's where I work. And I'm also on the Power App Studio team, working on ways to help our makers be more productive. I think for incorporating Teams within Power Apps, for folks who are unaware, there's actually a pretty deep integration for being able to put Power Apps in Teams. You can put a Power App inside of a Teams channel or a chat and kind of pin it and be able to open it up and use it all directly in there. That's the way we see a lot of folks doing it. For putting Teams chat into Power Apps, this is something that we see less of. If you go and have a look at the documentation for the Teams connector in Power Apps, that's a great resource for understanding the ways in which you can connect to Teams and what functionality is available. There's are ways in Power Apps Canvas to replicate a chat-like experience, but I wouldn't recommend going that route. I definitely think the best way would be to include the Power App inside of Teams and to use the native team functionality, because then you'll get the full suite of capabilities there, like being able to react and reply to all of those messages and everything like that. It was unclear from the terms here whether you were asking about Power Pages, because you say Power Apps pages. The one thing I would highlight there is oftentimes the Power Pages, the websites, the other product on the Power Platform is used for connecting with external customers. And so I just want to flag that that's probably not a great use case to expose the Teams chat for all the authenticated folks on the external website, just in case that was what the question was about.
Again, another very complete
Very
answer.
complete. Good job, Emma.
Yeah. I think the only one worth mentioning there is that while we sort of kind of don't have an out-of-the-box control for Teams chat in Power Apps, the Dynamics products do have Teams integration sort of out of the box. So whether you're looking at like sales and service, the Dynamics 365 products do have sort of like inbuilt Teams chat to talk about an opportunity or a customer. So there are capabilities like that available in the broader platform, but they're part of those Dynamics products.
Yeah. All these products together are the best team.
Bam. The best. Okay. Thank you, Emma.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Okay, shall we head on to question 4? We're making great progress. So I get another good meaty one. All right, so the question is, and this is going to be going to Greg. So listen up. Are there any plans to update the code behind Vue to work more like VS Code? So the example here is for a button with onSelect, looking at the code in Power Apps is very difficult when compared to VS Code. For large code block, I often copy the code over to VS Code and then use PowerFX Interpreter to make sure the code is correct. The ability to use the plus minus to compress or expand code blocks is extremely useful. So thanks for that. Okay, so I can hand that over to Greg, and I'll just sort of add by saying, isn't PowerFX a great name?
PowerFX is
a great name with a great icon. Okay, we love that wine burgundy.
And a great language.
Yes. Oh, I should have said that first. Yes.
Yes, not just a great.
Handing over to Greg.
Thank you all. So my name is Greg Lindhorst. I work in Redmond as well. I've been working on PowerFX for a number of years and Power Apps in general. To your question, it's really close to our hearts. We have been trying to find a way to get a more full screen editor in the studio and outside of studio for a long, long time. We've had a number of initiatives along those lines. It is still very much top of mind. It's still something much we want to do. When we brought up some of the YAML windows that you've seen more recently, that was kind of the precursor to getting in this direction. Also, I know that Mike Stahl, who works on PowerFX, is working in MCS on Copilot on VS Code for MCS. That he's bringing the LSP, the language service provider, to work there. So there is all kinds of movement around this that hopefully it'll coalesce and we'll actually get to a point where it'll come together and we'll be able to offer this. But we hear this a lot. We feel it ourselves. We very much would like this capability. It is something that's very much close to our heart, on the roadmap, something we would like to do more of. And I'll hand it now to Mark, who can probably talk a little bit more about it because he owns the YAML side of things.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. So, hey, folks, my name is Marc Schweigert. I'm on the Power Apps Studio team as well, and I hail from Virginia, just outside of DC. So for those of you who want to do some lightweight Canvas YAML editing and editing in general, if you are using the new native source control integration feature as part of the process to roll it all out, we've also enabled the ability to pull changes in your Git repo through native Git integration into your environment, and that includes Canvas apps. And on top of that, if you use that in combination with VS Code for Web's feature that allows you to actually open a Azure DevOps repo in VS Code for Web, you have sort of the key pieces that you can do yourself ahead of us building richer integration into Power Apps Studio itself. So use native Git integration, use VS Code for Web with its integration with Azure DevOps. I think there are some links coming up. So this is the link to native Git integration. And then the next link that's going to be shared is how you can then use that with Azure VS Code for Web with Azure repos. And then the combination of those, you can now go lightweight edit your Canvas apps, your flows, et cetera. And then you can go with native Git integration and pull it into your environment. And you will see those changes that you made in your repo reflect in your environment.
Thanks, Mark. And
Greg.
Yeah, and Greg, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, Greg. You did a great job. And I was going to say, I don't think anyone that I know loves PowerFX as much as Greg does. And your background really demonstrates that.
Hopefully, I think your video stream is featured right now so people can truly appreciate the custom Greg PowerFX background. Definitely not marketing approved, but
that's
still
actually very true.
Loved by marketing.
I can't believe
but loved by marketing.
Absolutely loved, but also that's true. It's not.
I think you basically just got marketing approval, Greg, for it.
Yeah, I got it. Yes.
Don't get me fired, please.
I would say, I think the other thing I would add in there, we mentioned it a couple times in YAML and code view. This, and like, I very much consider myself a citizen developer and a maker. I'm not a pro code maker. The YAML and code view that you can do in Studio now, so like you can click on a screen and say code view. You can copy and paste those snippets out into VS Code and make edits with them, or like the code editor of your choice. You can also use that to then share. So like you can send someone like a little snippet in Teams. They can go, or you can post it on a community. There are like GitHub repos now with YAML snippets. There's a lot of power there of like not being constrained to just that formula bar, but kind of being able to use YAML and the tools that are traditional. So like that was one way we're trying to open it up and make the apps a little more transparent, even though they're low code. So if you haven't checked out YAML, if you haven't checked out Code View, I would definitely go have a look at that as well.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think those are really amazing kind of enhancements that have been made over the last year.
Yeah, sort of, I mean, like it keeps that low code goodness, but it starts in like making it a little more accessible to pro developers or someone that's a lot more familiar or comfortable with code.
Like the true essence of like you can build how you want to build.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Come as you are.
Yeah. And just speaking of coming as you are, my first little plug of we do have build next week.
We do have build next week.
So if you haven't already registered, highly recommend that you do. Clay actually has a session, but you don't. There's lots of other good sessions too. We'd love to see you there as well.
Yeah, I think we'll share out with this group, people that have registered, the details of all the great sort of Power Apps, Power Platform sessions that are going to be there, which will be fun. I think the next question is for me, Bri, so you should probably ask it.
I'll ask it then. I'll ask it. Yeah. Okay, so going on to question 5. Are there any active private/partner-only previews for Power Platform/Power Apps that non-MVP community subject experts can participate in and make impact on product team?
This is a great.
I was gonna say great.
This is a great question. And I mean, I think I'll answer in a couple of ways. I think one, first of all, I think this is a good nudge for us that we can probably do better in like posting on the community forums or on LinkedIn when there are these preview programs available. I don't know if we may necessarily do the best job of making them discoverable, so we can probably do better there. I would say though, I think to tie on to what we were just talking about with build, we are definitely going to have some new preview program announcements next week that will be open for folks to sign up to and join. So there are some really exciting efforts that are going to be coming through about how to build apps, new AI assisted development. And so like those will come out in a limited preview, but they will be open for everyone to join. So sign up for build, get those details, and sort of find out. And then I think the third one I would say is we also do a lot of our previews now very transparently in the product. And so what a change you're going to notice, particularly on the authoring side in the next week as we approach build, is as you go in to sort of put in your business problem and challenge for the plan designer to generate your plan, there's a little checkbox there that says include preview features. And you'll get all these new amazing capabilities that we're going to be announcing next week. You have the opportunity to use them. There are little feedback, thumbs up and thumb down in the product. And our team read that feedback literally every single morning. We go through every comment that's sent back, every thumbs down, every thumbs up. You can give us ideas. And so like there are just like in product previews that I would love people to go discover more and use more and give us feedback. Yeah. Anything I missed?
I think the only thing I would add to that, because I think it is a great question, like we want everyone, like things are moving so quickly at the moment, like there are constantly new things, like keeping up is hard. So I think from a marketing perspective, like we always try to ensure when we announce something that there is a way to go and access it, like that is best practice. And so within all of our blogs, whether you are an MVP or not, there should be, especially if it's like an early access preview, there should be a sign up link. And that is available to everyone. Sometimes there's some minimum requirements, but often not. So that is the place to go. Clay actually has a monthly
that's a great idea.
A monthly blog where he kind of sums up everything that's happened. And Clay, I'll commit on his behalf, will ensure there's a CTA link.
I like this. We include the preview programs.
Yes, in every single one of those blogs. So look out for that.
Look at us actively solving problems on the community call. That's a great monthly newsletter.
Update the links.
Definitely check out the monthly newsletter, and we'll now include any active preview programs in the monthly newsletter. Bam, solving problems. I love this. Okay. Shall we go to the next one? I can read. You've done the last two questions.
Okay. You may.
So, let's send this one to Emma. Emma, will we ever have an integration of Power BI paginated reports inside Power Apps, with the user having the required Power BI license to generate paginated reports? Question.
Thanks for sending it this way. I like the sad crying cat emoji. It's
That
funny.
came with it, yes.
Yeah, that came with the question. I think, for those who are unaware, Power BI has an offering called paginated reports. This is reports that are meant to be printed on a page over multiple pages where you can have quite complex tables and charts and everything designed to be shared and printed and so on. One of the things, they support a number of different data sources, including Dataverse and SQL, and other data sources, which are frequently used with apps as well. And so the two quite actually pair together nicely. And we do see folks who leverage both of these capabilities together, using apps for doing your app tasks and data entry, and using the paginated reports for your reporting. Will we ever have a tighter integration? If I take that, in a silly way, for like forever, very far horizon, I mean, probably this is something that may grow closer together, but in complete transparency, there's no plans in the short term right now to have a tighter integration, though we are investing in a number of other visualization capabilities in Power Apps as well. So I guess like the answer to this one is there's a lot you can already do there with both products in the way that it's set up today. I would like to see them grow closer, but nothing in the short term.
Thank you, Emma.
Thanks, Emma, for giving us honest and managing expectations. And to reward you, we'll give you another question.
Yay!
Right. But before we do that, anything you'd add there?
No, I think to Emma's last point, if folks aren't sort of keeping track of the latest sort of Power Apps capabilities around like grid and visualizations that have a lot of like AI generated assistance and AI generated content, definitely worth a look there. That obviously is not a replacement for like, I need a P&L report that's really structured and paginated. But for a lot of those ad hoc analytical and reporting requests, I think like we see a lot of that moving towards really beefing up our capabilities in the grid and the visualizations as well.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
What I also heard Emma saying, this is maybe the marketing interpretation, was that you're building it natively. You're not going to need something else.
Yeah, exactly. You're not going to another surface to build or learning something new, but like how does it come natively?
That's what I was thinking. Anyways, okay. So the next question is also for you, Emma. Congrats. And the question is, now there is a default UI in Power Apps. Any possibilities in future? Changes in developer UI. Now the delegation limit also is up to 2,000. In the future, are there any possibilities on increasing that limit?
Thanks for another question. Happy to help here. I'll also tag Greg if he wants to chime in as well, because I know he loves talking about delegation too. I think like for the first part, in terms of changes in developer UI, we are constantly working on what's there and adding new capabilities and adding new things in there. So absolutely, we'll have more changes to come, hopefully things that are beneficial. Now for the delegation limit, it is unlikely that we will increase the limit here in order to help folks maintain good practices in working with large sets of data. And Gray, I don't know if you want to add more flavor.
No, basically what you said. Initially, when we first released Power Apps, it had a 5,000 row limit, and it was kind of a disaster because people were pulling way too much data on every query. And so that's why it got reduced all the way down to a 500 default, with a cap of 2,000. We have found in looking at people that are looking at apps that think they need an enhancement, if we look at the query, if we look at how it's structured, usually we can make it more efficient so it doesn't need quite so many records to come back at the same time. So there is no plan necessarily to do that. If you're running into this limit, if that's really a problem, please reach out to me. I'd love to understand your scenario better. We can look at other alternatives. We can look at raising the limit if that's ultimately what needs to be done. But we haven't found that case yet that really requires us to raise it over the current maximum.
Yeah, they're going to flash up Greg's cell number on the screen.
Yes.
You can just text him directly with any delegation issues that you have.
Anytime,
Day
24/7.
or night. Just,
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Yeah.
Greg is available. And I think a good point there is like, because we do get involved in a lot of these conversations with customers about like, the initial request is I need to increase the delegation limit. And when we actually go and look at their app or how it's structured, there is either potentially like a different way to approach it in PowerFX or with the connector that would be way more efficient, would not introduce performance challenges and wouldn't need the delegation limit to be increased. And so I think one area that like we do want to keep investing in is like, how do we bring some of that knowledge into like formula repair and advisor recommendations into the product so that like you don't have to text Greg at 2 a.m. but that like the product itself, you can, I mean, definitely you can, but the tool will start giving you some of those like recommendations of what you can improve.
Yeah, it's a great call out. But we appreciate the feedback because it's good to relook at things and think things through.
It is, and I think like to Greg's point, we've changed that over time from what we've learned, but like I think our lessons there have been increasing it is not necessarily the answer. It introduces other problems.
Correct.
Yeah, very true. Cool.
Awesome.
Next question. I think it's your turn.
I think it's me.
Don't slack.
Sorry, no one's keeping count. Also as well, just a little reminder, I know we've like flashed up some docs and learn pages. The recording of this AMA is going to get posted on LinkedIn and on YouTube. And our amazing team are going to include the links to all those documents that we've mentioned and flashed up as well.
Yeah, we should also include links to the build session.
We should. We'll do that. We'll include a list of all the amazing build sessions that we're going to have for Power Apps and Power Platform next week, so you don't have to go find them, and you can just sign up. And remember, it's in person and virtual.
Yes.
So you can just watch that from home.
And if you're going to be there, come say hi to us.
Yeah, we'll be there as well, with most of the people on this call. So you'll get a chance to meet in person.
Yeah, we love that.
Okay. Next question from Mark. Mark, can you explain a little more about using relative URLs for web resources in a solution that is deployed in multiple organizations? For the user experience, the URL of the model-driven app should be in their own organization.
Yeah, this is a great question. It's one we can certainly improve the experience on. So one thing to understand for those who aren't familiar with web resources and web resource naming is that you can name a web resource whatever you want, but we recommend a naming convention with slashes within it so that you get your solutions publisher prefix / then whatever you want, and then ending in whether it's an HTML web resource, an image web resource, etc. Name dot extension type. And when you do that, when you reference those things relatively in HTML, things just work. When you don't do that, things go a little bit haywire. And so I have shared a link that I think will be shared shortly that helps explain how all of that works and the recommended naming conventions to help you get there. The other thing to note about web resources is that they do live in the Dataverse solution. So when you package and deploy your solution from one environment to another, or you deploy that same solution into multiple environments, you effectively have a copy of that web resource in every environment you deploy your solution to. And so that's important to understand as well. It's not like there's a mechanism right now to point multiple organizations or environments to one web resource that they all reference. Each organization or environment will reference a copy. And so you do have to practice good application lifecycle management and ensure that you have the right versions deployed in the environments for, as you continue to evolve your application. But yeah, so this page kind of gives you some of the details about how to do relative URL reference, naming and then referencing within solutions and then model-driven apps.
I'm just going to throw a random question that we did not prepare Mark for, just because I feel it's related. But would you like to maybe give an example and talk about the connection to environment variables?
Yeah, sure. So actually, a couple of things I actually should call out as well. Web resources still have use in model-driven apps, but there are alternative approaches to solving a lot of the things that you can do with web resources now. For example, we have PCF components and lots of other options to be able to embed HTML and JavaScript and other things that have been around for a long time since the days of dynamics. So it would probably be remiss if I didn't mention, go look at alternatives to web resources and make web resources, for no pun intended, your sort of last resort, right? Last resort, not resource.
Yeah. I got it. It worked, Mark.
And so sorry, Clay, your original question was?
Environment variables.
Yes. So environment variables are this concept that allow you, as you move your various things within your solution from one environment to another, you can change parts of what they reference. So for example, if you're using an HTTP connector and in your dev environment, you want to use a dev HTTP endpoint, but in your test environment, you want to use a test HTTP endpoint. Environment variables are the mechanism which allow you to have different values in different environments, right? Does that answer the question you're looking for there, Clay?
Yeah, that's good. I think just more they're like similar to this question about relative URLs. There's like also some built-in capabilities for sort of PowerFX and Canvas and like the other technologies as well through environment variables.
Absolutely. And we continue to expand our support of environment variables across the platform. So certainly use those if you're looking to do healthy ALM.
Awesome. Thank you, Mark.
Awesome. Thanks, Mark. And thanks for taking that extra question.
Bonus question.
Bonus. You get a star.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we've got a lot of questions to get through. So shall we head to the next one? Motor on like that. Okay. So this next question is coming for Mick. So how can we selectively disable Copilot features in a model-driven app or Canvas app for a specific environment without disabling it at an environmental level? I love that, granular controls. I hope we're doing something great there. So no pressure, Nick.
No pressure. I wonder if I'm going to get some bonus questions as well. So I'm Mick. I'm based in Montreal, Canada. I work on security, governance, compliance in the Power Platform Admin Center. So obviously a bit sad to hear that the question is about turning off some of our cool Copilot features. But that said, I would say that it can be done for some of them. But generally, the pattern in the Admin Center is that these governance controls tend to get applied at the environment level. So that's typically sort of the common denominator between a lot of these. So it is typically at the environment. It could be done across environments as well through groups or the tenant level. So maybe the interesting way to think about that question is if there is a specific app or Canvas app that does have perhaps more of a unique profile where you do feel like it needs more specific setup compared to everything else in the environment, maybe it's best to actually place it in that other dedicated container, if that makes sense. And the good news there is that the platform has made a lot of amazing progress with ALM these days. So it's actually quite easy to move things across environments these days. So that would be probably the right way to think about this one.
Cool. And just because Mick asked for a bonus question, we should probably give him. Would you probably, and I segue to give folks a little bit of a heads up if they haven't seen about what the Copilot Hub is?
100%. So the good news on that front is, I mean, we've gotten a lot of feedback that just like the Copilot products are evolving super quickly, so are the governance controls and everything that comes along with it. So there is a lot of investment happening right now in the admin center. Specifically, there's a place called the Copilot Hub. And the purpose there is to really give you that one-stop shop to understand at a glance, how is the adoption of Copilot in your company? What's your posture? It's giving you interesting analytics. It can even touch into some ROI. And it's really meant to help you understand what is the adoption looking like in the company and what is the benefit you're getting from that adoption. And obviously all of the bells and whistles and governance controls that you need to feel good about that adoption.
Awesome.
Thanks, Mick.
Thank you.
Of course.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I don't have a question for you, but I have a question for the person who sent that question.
Oh.
I agree with Mick. I think it would be great to be able to have those granular controls and do it at an environment level. But I'd also love to understand why they want to disable it, because I think that's something we'd want to fix as well.
Yeah, and I think in some of a lot of the conversation we're having with folks now is it's less about turning it off in a lot of cases, but more having a way to gradually turn it on.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
So the other direction, they want to roll it out
Like
in,
sequentially.
sequentially to different groups of people. Mick, is that generally the feedback we're getting these days?
Yeah, generally, everybody likes to feel like they're in control, right, and being able to deploy things on their terms. So I think that's definitely one of the themes we're hearing. And obviously, we are developing a lot of patterns and approaches to empower folks to be able to do that much easier than you could today.
Great.
So, thank you, Mick.
Love that. Yeah.
Okay.
Good job.
We are going to throw another question at Emma. Emma, is it possible to see an example of how to integrate a Power App to local DBs like Oracle and SAP?
Yeah. You just like hearing me speak, don't you?
That's it.
We love this.
For this one, we probably don't have time to see an example, but I think there's definitely some good learn content we have here. So I think the link's being brought up. But for examples on this one, this is kind of a breakdown of the ways that you can connect to SAP here. One big resource for connecting to data is our list of connectors. We do have a couple of SAP connectors to connect to ERP and also our OData connector. All of the details are kind of there for connecting. For connecting to things that are on-premise or local, you will need a data gateway. And so the data gateway is the way to transfer that data between stuff that is on-premises and your stuff that is in the cloud, like Power Apps and so on. And so one big resource I will point out here is there's actually quite a very excellent white paper on this listed in the resources on this link. So there's actually a full SAP and Power Platform white paper that you can download and see a bunch of those examples for how to connect to the different services that are explained here.
That's great.
That's great. That's a great answer, Emma. I was also just going to say, and it made me think that I'm sure that we have a video for this on YouTube. So I will go and look. And if we don't,
I think we do.
We will fix that because it is a great question and it is something we should have out there. The YouTube channel is getting much richer in all of that kind of content, especially Power Platform.
Yeah, and I think there's a couple of customers that have like explicitly spoken about their journey, like of integrating with local SAP. Maybe not like Oracle examples, but at least SAP, which is very much the same, same sort of practice.
Yeah, there's definitely some customer examples that are out there. I also think there's actually a template that is out there as well for connecting to SAP. If you do a search for like Power Apps SAP template, it should be one of the learn links that come up.
I think you're right as well. There is a template to help you get started with SAP connection.
Emma's always right.
Emma is always right. We don't quit. That's why she's answering the questions and we're asking them.
Yeah, we have the easy job.
Yeah. I also think it's probably worth mentioning that I think like this is one of the areas where the connectors and sort of how we approach it in apps are really powerful in that once you set up that data gateway and you've made your connection to SAP, the way you work with like your on-premise data source versus a cloud data source in PowerFX and the apps is the same. It's exposed the same way in PowerFX. You can still use the same controls over it. It's just kind of that initial step of setting up the data gateway and establishing the connection. Once it's established, you can leverage then a lot of the same learnings that you've got, which is great. Cool. Thank you, Emma.
Thank you so much. Okay, cool. The next question is coming to Mick. So the question is, I'm a teacher and a Power App graduate.
Congratulations.
Firstly, I was going to say, love this question. And I'll just pause and say, super excited. Congratulations.
Yes.
And also just a quick, if folks don't know what Power App program is, have a quick search. It is a program that essentially like we run and it's all about upskilling. So you could be a teacher, you could be anything, a student, and you can essentially onboard and actually graduate and learn. And there's a ton of resources and mentoring. So highly recommend checking that out or sharing it with folks that are thinking about learning. And so the actual question is, I've built apps in Power Apps, Power BI, and Power Pages, but they're only accessible within my Microsoft developer tenant. Parents and students can't access them. Can these apps be shared publicly or with external users? And are there free options for educational use? And this question is going to Mick. And the only thing I was going to say before this, to any other aspiring teachers becoming tech advocates out there, I'd highly recommend, speaking of customer stories, going and looking at the Tacoma Schools one.
Yes.
Lauren is the principal of that school. She's done the most remarkable things. I feel like you're on Lauren's journey as well. So highly recommend checking that out. It's a super exciting, inspiring story. And so with that, I will finally be quiet and hand over to Mick.
Hey, good to be back. Didn't take too long. So the short answer is yes. So generally speaking, a lot of the assets could be shared with external users. It's not necessarily uncommon. Obviously, I'm coming from the security, governance, and compliance world. So typically what I do recommend customers doing in this case is to maybe make sure that whatever asset you are maybe exposing publicly, maybe keep it in a separate place from perhaps other assets that maybe do have access to important data or things that you maybe wouldn't want to make sure doesn't cross-pollinate from one to the other. So it goes a little bit back to my previous question on making sure that things are properly organized neatly across different environments based on what their use is for. So generally, the short answer is it could be done. Just make sure that it's done in a way that doesn't put at risk any of the important data you might have.
Awesome. Thanks, Meg. And I can speak a little bit more to like the free options for educational use. So this aspiring developer is using the Microsoft developer tenant. So if folks aren't aware, we have essentially a Power Platform developer plan. It's a great way to go in and essentially build whatever your heart desires. And so it's a free environment for you to learn, to go and play and build to your heart's content. The question on the free options for educational use, it depends on the type of solution that you're building. Like, is it using basic or premium capabilities? And it also depends who you want to share it with. Do you want to share it with folks within your organization or with outside your organization? Because then it might be a question of Power Apps or Power Pages. And so I would highly recommend that you go and have a look at the Power Platform licensing guide, which is on my Learn. We can put a link in here. It is a great place for finding information. And another hot tip from me personally is I build a Copilot agent for the licensing guide just for myself, and it just makes finding things very easy. So
did you do that through like the create agent, the button?
Yeah.
And just based off the document?
Yeah, I made a licensing one in it now. So instead of having to go and look at licensing documentation, I just ask my agent and it gives me the answer. So
that's really good. We should include a link to the licensing doc.
Yeah, we should.
We'll do that when this gets published. And I think the only other thing I'll add to Mick's answer is that like across the products, there's different sort of access methods as well. So like with apps and reports and sites, you can do sort of like authenticated guest external access. Pages and Power BI also then have the option to go like a more broad, like anonymous access model as well. So to Mick's point, kind of depending on your audience and like who you want to open it up for, whether you want it to be more public or authenticated. But there is a lot of questions there's a lot of questions. There's a lot of options. There's a lot of questions as well, but there's a lot of options in sort of how you secure it and how you make it available. But definitely external access is one of those options. Cool. All right. Next question. I think we've got a couple of control questions lined up here. So we are going to send them to Jason. So Jason, when will the modern table sort feature bug be fixed? This is specific. I like the specificity of this question.
No pressure.
Yeah, this is a very specific question. Thanks, Clay. I'm Jason Green. I'm a program manager on the interface team. So my team is responsible for a lot of the front end pieces. Before I get to this specific question, I think I'm going to back up and just talk about modern controls in general, just because this is one specific case. So as probably everyone on here knows, we've been on this journey over the last few semesters to modernize the control space in Canvas apps, trying to make things more consistent, more accessible. And so we're pretty proud of where we're at right now. So at this point in time, we've GA'd over 15 of our modern controls. I think there's 7 that are still in preview. And so the reality of the situation right now is the progress on this front is likely going to slow a little bit. So teams have been pivoting a little bit to focus on a lot of these AI and agent type experiences that you're seeing show up, the form fills and the other pieces that we'll talk about in another question coming up. And so the progress is it's gonna slow a little bit here. The top priority for us is going to be making sure that the controls that are GA already and the capabilities that come with them, that they're fully supported in production. So we're going to make sure that things remain stable, reliable, regression-free in terms of performance, everything like that. Those will take a front seat over work that will happen on some of these controls that are still in preview. So less happening on new capabilities on GA controls and moving existing preview controls to GA. So in the case of this particular question with the modern table control, it might be a little bit, honestly, to just be fully transparent before we're going to fix this, because this is still one of those preview controls. And so it's I would say towards the bottom of our priority level on the modern control space right now. But we do love all the support and all of the usage that we are getting. We are continuing to read feedback. There is some news in this space that I think you'll be interested to see next week. So I'm just going to kind of leave a little teaser there, and yeah, just keep your eyes peeled.
But I think so. The short answer there is focuses on of those GA'd controls, like reliability fixes, prioritizing there before we necessarily go and add anything to the preview controls at the moment. So folks want to kind of understand which ones are safer to leverage or going to move faster. Definitely the GA'd ones first before the preview ones.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the documentation link that I think we were showing earlier, it shows very clearly which ones are GA'd and which ones are preview at this point.
Yeah. That's a good answer. Thanks, Jason. Just from my perspective in marketing, I totally get the prioritization. It's very important. But whoever asks this question really cares about it. So just know that I'm going to carry on holding this flag and I'm going to bug Clay about this bug until it's fixed.
And I'm going to bug Jason. Yeah, no. This is a good one. Look, we appreciate the specificity of the question. Yeah. So I think Jason has the charge now. He has the details. He can go see what it is. But very fair answer, Jason. And I think prioritizing the GA controls is the right thing to do. But we can always hope Jason pulls a build miracle for you.
Oh, I love it.
A build miracle.
That might be the announcement tease.
There we go. Yeah. That's the announcement tease. Yeah. Okay. Let's jump on to the question 13. Yeah. So this is going to be for Mick, Jason, and Marc.
Oh, 3 for the price of 1.
Well, this is going to be a good answer, I can tell. So what control do I have over the form fill assistance feature in model-driven apps? Now, whoever is going to start speaking first, I would say, explain that feature first for people that might not be familiar with it, and then let's talk about what control folks have over it.
Sounds good. I think I can start. So the form fill feature in model-driven apps is it's an AI-based feature that helps users enter data into the system. So one of the big time I don't know. I guess one of the ways that it takes users a lot of time to get through the app is to actually put data into the system. And so what this feature does is it uses AI to suggest values into form fields. And so you don't have to, it doesn't automatically save it. They're just suggestions that you can go in and you can say, yes, I like this, accept it, or you can clear it out if you don't like it. And so with something this powerful, the generic solution may not fit your needs exactly. And so what we've tried to do is put in a bunch of controls over how you can which parts of this feature you can have on and off, and how you can actually control which fields get suggestions and how good those suggestions are. And so there's two kinds of buckets for where these controls live. The first, I think, is on the admin side, which I think, Mick, you wanted to talk about. So I'll hand it over to you to cover that piece.
Yeah, sure. And great introduction. No one likes to do manual data entry, right? So I think that's where a lot of this AI form fill magic comes to life. So actually, the first question I answered, this is one of those cases where you can actually set things up at the individual app level or environment level. And I won't say when exactly, but coming soon, you'll be able to also configure this across environments in bulk through the concept of groups. So for a lot of these, yeah. So for a lot of these, I'd say typically for a lot of these AI features, we do try to strike the balance and have that full flexibility and whatever type of granularity that customers want. And another teaser, Clay, you had mentioned the Copilot hub, right? That's going to be the place where all of these controls are effectively going to be aggregated. So, this too will be introduced in there at some point, just like most of all the future governance controls there as well. So that's all I wanted to add.
Sure. So I can go through like the specific controls that you have on the admin side. So this documentation right here shows the three that you have control over. So automatic suggestions, so whether it takes kind of your most recently used values or other kind of content on the form to suggest values in other fields, you have the ability to turn that on and off. The second one is about smart paste and file suggestions, so the ability to take things from your clipboard or upload files and use those, let the AM reason over those to fill in fields on the form. That's another switch that you can turn on and off for this feature. And then the last one is the actual UI assist bar itself. So it's the UI piece where you can see what file has been suggested or if what content is being used to make the suggestions, and that piece of UI can also be flipped on and off. So those three things are the options that you have from the admin side to configure what form fill does. On the maker side. On the maker side, there are a few other options. Mark, I think you wanted to jump in and talk about this.
Yep. So I shared a link. Hopefully that'll be coming up soon. Now, in addition to all the controls that you have, we also have given you the ability at the table level to determine whether or not the columns in the table, at the column level within the table, whether or not those columns should participate in form fill. Right. And so as a maker, even if an admin has enabled all of these things, you still have ultimate control in your application of what gets intelligently filled and what doesn't.
Oh, I love it.
That's a good one.
Yep. And
it was such a complete answer. Definitely worth 3 respondents there.
Yeah,
I like that.
And I'll give one more thing if we have a minute. So even on top of that, so form fill uses the field descriptions to try to reason over what that field is good for. And so another way that you can adjust how it works is to go in and change those field descriptions to make it more descriptive of what kinds of inputs, what kinds of text or whatever the field accepts, and that will help the agent figure out what kinds of data to go in that field.
Cool.
Awesome.
Thanks, Jason. I feel like form fill saves so much time. Like
it's
one thing that's just.
I was renewing my passport recently, and I had to fill in a bunch of information. I literally obviously they didn't have form fill on the Australian embassy website, and so like I had a PDF open on one side with all the data, and then the website on the other, and I was sitting there manually typing all the numbers out, and I was just like, oh, if I only had form fill, and I could have just dragged this across over, and I would have been.
That's such a great point. Everyone needs form fill.
Yeah, and anything I'm doing, I just need form fill. Okay, thank you, Jason, Mick, and Mark.
Yeah.
I think we have.
I think we're getting towards the end, but I think if we have time, we have 1 or 2 questions. But this is a question for us, so I'll ask it because it's my turn to ask it because you took the last 2.
I apologize.
Yeah. So
excitement.
I know. There's so many new things. They're working very hard. This is true. It can be hard to keep track of it all. How do I keep up on what is changing?
That is a really good question. And I would say like we honestly, we feel the speed as well, even from our side. I would say, look, I think it's always going to be a mix. There is not going to be a perfect answer. Obviously, like we shared a lot of learn pages and things like that, but there's a lot of detail in there, and that's typically helpful once you kind of know what you're looking for. I think, at least for me, and then Bri, you can share yours as well, but I would say a plug for the monthly blog that we do. We do our Power Apps monthly feature update blog. We'll include a link to it. And so it includes features that we've added, announcements that we've made. It also includes any docs or like learn pages that have been updated in that month. So
and it will now include.
And it's also going to include preview programs, as we said earlier. So it's just like a really good monthly summary of all the announcements that we've made. And it always has links to docs or to blogs, so you can go find out more. I would say the other one for me is like our amazing sort of MVP and advocate community. YouTube, LinkedIn. There's a lot of folks that like as features are hitting like our preview regions, they're going and making super detailed like 10-minute crash courses on YouTube and publishing and then getting them out there. And I feel like those are also really helpful depending on how you like to intake your information. Those are really helpful sort of sources. And then, this is actually a good one you might want to speak to. Release plan is also another one.
So I was going to say those two as well. And then release planner. It's how about we want to keep things organized for anyone that likes organization. Twice a year, every 6 months. There'll be documents, there'll be on my learn, and there'll be a kickoff call, like event. And so that's where we share like what's coming for the next 6 months. That's everything you can find. The other thing I would then add is our events. So I know from us, Build next week, sign up for Build. Sorry, don't bore you. But also, maybe even more exciting for me personally is the Power Platform Community Conference that's happening later this year. We also have one in Europe, but we also have our big US one where we all go, and we'd love to see you there. And that's another place where I think you can sign up to sessions for your heart's content, come and nag us all, and you can learn about everything. So I know that we just mentioned a bunch of things and we're like, go to all these different places because we want you to have options. We've talked
it's about how you like your content.
Like video or blog. But yes, monthly blog, the release planner, and then our, I would say, flagship events. And then lastly, I'm sure you're already engaging with our, I would say, probably the best community at Microsoft.
Yes,
100%. Our community. So definitely great content out there. Go connect.
Awesome. And we are at time.
Yes.
So first of all, I mean, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day. Really amazing questions. Just like the variety and depth of the questions, you're just like the technical skill of this audience really just came through. We are going to put a link, QR code up onto the screen. We would really love your feedback. Please tell us how you like these events, how we can improve them, and what we could do in the future as well.
Yeah.
And then before we leave you, any parting thoughts, Brian?
No, just thank you. Thank you to all of our question answerers as well. You all did a fabulous job in the organization.
Thank you to the team.
Also, I mean, you've got a QR code as well. So not just feedback on the event, but put Clay to work.
Yeah.
Tell them what you want.
What should we go build next?
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you all at Build next week.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.